Hello, welcome to All For United WFC. Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC. This is a Festive Fans Forum, Christmas Eve special. Obviously got Andy with us tonight as always. Andy, how you doing, mate?
Not too bad. I'm just admiring the sort of Royal Mail postage stamp thing you got going on there. It looks very good.
Top notch here, mate.
Copyright letters can go to John. It's not my idea.
Yeah. To look this good, it costs a whopping £20, so it's well worth it if you want to get laughed off for 20 quid. It's
costing my eyes at the minute. I appreciate it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, fine, mate.
You watch. You'll get one sooner or later. I hope you do. It's a good laugh. Connor, how you doing, mate? I know that you put a women's show out this week as well. How are you keeping? You okay?
Yeah, all good. I've just finished. Obviously, you were on it. The last show for this year for the men's. This will be the last for the women. So, look forward to it.
Yeah, and that's on the main All For United account, so not the WFC account. That's the main one as well. So if you want to check out that one, that was recorded on Monday night. Anthony, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, good. Getting in the Christmas mood slowly. Obviously, the game against Villa has definitely helped that. Couldn't have asked for more, really.
Yeah.
Shame Tony wouldn't apply and do Sue, especially when she scored the second.
Well, by all means, you can have your say on that game when we get cracking. No problem. Obviously, it's a great game to be a part of. Winning 5-0, something that we don't see a lot of at United. So awesome there, yeah. And John, first time on the show. How you keeping, mate?
Yeah, all good, thanks, mate. Yeah, looking forward to this. Yeah, buzzing after the last 3 games as well.
Really glad that you've come on. John's really active on Twitter. He has been for as long as I've been on Twitter myself, and you're always in the comments. We always tag you in things, and you come up to us at the ground after the first or second game of the season this season, and thank you for doing that. And yeah, great to have you on the show, and hopefully you enjoy it and you can be a regular on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. So yeah, we just want to talk about how well we've done this calendar year under the circumstances. It's been an up and down year, so we're just going to kind of bounce off each other a little bit. We haven't got any scheduled questions or anything, but it's that time of the year where we can kind of reflect on. It has been a very tough year, and I'll bring you in first, Andy. It has been very tough. If you bullet point the things that we as a club have been through, so I'll just quickly list a few now, and we can just touch base on them. So obviously, turn of the year, we started off top of the league. We had a few injuries going into the start of that year. We had the trouble of Dubai Gate that was kind of giving us a bit of bad press and potential unrest in the dressing room. We don't know that, but we had a lot going on behind the scenes there. Started losing a few matches. Casey Stoney ended up resigning. Lots of bad press over the spring and summer about poor facilities. It seemed to take an age to get a new manager in, and when we did, the fans were divided because was he as high profile as we wanted. Transfers, we lost a lot of big names. We didn't really replace them with the big names. And then we've got a new style of play that some people aren't actually on board with. Thankfully, the last 3 games, we've picked up maximum points there, which has kind of got us to a good place. And we've kind of ended the year on a high. And that's kind of the way I want this Christmas Eve show to go. So, Andy, a lot to get into there. Just, what are your thoughts? Because that's a massive thing for the club to go through.
Well, I was going to say, apart from the end bit, I was glad there was no knives around. Jesus, it was depressing me a little bit, but there you go. No, it's good to look back on it. Obviously, it has been a bit of a different year. Obviously, with it being behind closed doors, as well. So we were all, had to see this from afar. And, we always said last season, didn't we, how much did the fact that we went in especially because you look at what Tooney's been quoted as saying the last few days, and what obviously Mark's been saying as well. I think if any team would get affected by a lack of fans, it would be us. So how much of that was down to that? But I think I think it's definitely been it's an interesting year, because when we were in, as you say, when we were in the heat of it a couple of months ago, it was a little bit it was quite light. We didn't really see much sort of light at the end of the tunnel. But with the last 3 games that we had against Villa, Everton, and Brighton. I always feel like saying at Crawley because it just annoys me. It's not a Brighton. It's just move it to it's the Ryanair League, as I said. So like you don't actually play where you're meant to. But maybe actually it is actually starting to click a little bit, and maybe there is some hope. I mean, obviously COVID restrictions, whatever they're going to be in the new year, we might end up be back like we were in January, but hopefully not. But I think ultimately maybe we're turning the corner. I mean, obviously the big questions that are left are transfers. I mean, obviously, but then again, I go back to one of the first things I said in August, which was I think someone said to Skinner, do you want to be weak at defence or weak in attack? And he chose weak in attack. And actually, that obviously would be the right decision. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Anthony, bring you in because I want to bring Connor in and John shortly. But Anthony, yourself, how do you kind of assess this year? I know that you, for the season, I think you've 6 out of 10 that you called this season.
Yeah, and then you mentioned it. I was debating maybe after the last 3 games, maybe giving him an extra half a point. It's just that thing, isn't it? Like I've said on previous shows, there's certain games that we should have won, like Skinner he's made it pretty documented. Like if we'd beaten Everton, beaten Tottenham, you can accept losing to Arsenal. You can accept losing to Chelsea. I just think the manner that we lost to Chelsea in was what would have annoyed people. But like I said before, if we'd beaten Tottenham and Everton like we should have done, we didn't, so we can't do anything about it. People wouldn't be questioning Skinner's style of play, would they? They might not like the style of play, but at the end of the day, it's a results basis. So you get the win at all costs, don't you? And obviously, because we didn't get them wins, you get people jumping on, oh, Skinner, ball's not working, oh, what's this rubbish, blah, blah, blah. But now we've won 3 in a row. There's always going to be some people that aren't happy with it. But there's less on Twitter about it. Everyone's in a good mood. And that's what wins do. It brings everyone up, the players up, us as fans. You only have to look at when I went to the Chelsea game. Yes, we were still there for them, singing and that. But compared to when we're winning and the place is bouncing, we are a lot louder when we're winning, and it's just it's only natural if you're, especially when you get into like 4-5-1. It's very hard to keep going, but as a fan base, we do keep going. So that's credit to us, but it's getting better, and long may it continue. If we can get a couple in January, some good, maybe another striker. I reckon. I think we're all right in the midfield at the moment. I think we've got enough midfielders. But if we can get another striker, because Martha Thomas, she's all right, but she does get injured quite a bit. So we could do with her staying fit, but it's important about having depth. I mentioned it in the group chat. We're only I know Chelsea have got a game in hand, but we're only 3 points behind them at the moment. So you look at that, and considering the start of the season, and even though we've only lost 2 games, it's not been too bad, really, is it? It was always going to take a bit of time for Skinner's tactics to come across. It's just natural. So I'm happy, definitely happy at the moment. But I do think we need to take advantage and get top 3, especially with City only being not far off behind us, and they got half a squad to come back. So that's the main worry with top 3. I know Tottenham are currently there, but you only have to look at it last season when we sort of fell apart a bit. We lost 5 after Christmas last year. So you just
Always
have
end
to
on a positive.
well, no, but you just have to bear that in mind. But in general, yeah, I'm quite happy with how it is at the moment. And then 3 games definitely helps. So all good.
Yeah, we're all cheap dates, 3 wins, and we're anybody's, aren't we? Let's be honest. So.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
It works both ways because we get like 3 poor results and it's the end of the world, don't we? And that's just Man United.
Yeah.
Skinner said this on his interviews. You know, I don't think he was referring to the fans. I think maybe more to do with the players. But like we are so up and down. You know, we never level, are we? John, do you kind of see the way Anthony's kind of looking at it? You know, we're not doing too bad under the circumstances.
Yeah, I think I agree with Anthony, really. You know, considering where we were in the summer, looking like we were going to be short of players and, you know, struggling for a squad, I think Skinner's done okay, really, pretty well, to be honest. Just like, say, that Everton and Spurs result that sort of stick out. Say if we'd won those like we should have done, we'd be right up there. So I suppose you've got to look at it from a positive from that point of view. Really,
yeah. We talk about like the fine margins. You know, it was literally a last-minute winner from Tottenham. Sorry, a last-minute draw from Tottenham. Last-minute goal that like kind of swung it. If we've held on to that win, it's literally on that last minute. You know, we would be third. But now I'm speaking a bit like Skinner. You know, if we did this, if we had done
Not
that,
just the accent either.
not just like the accent. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, I agree with the rest of you. I think it's decent under the circumstances. I think if you spoke to a lot of United fans in the summer, with the transfer window that we had and the unrest that we had in the squad, you know, a lot of the words that came up was they wanted stability. They wanted stability. You know, they wanted to like maintain that 4th spot. A lot of fans would have probably thought maybe 5th or 6th going into the start of the season, and we're still 4th, challenging for 3rd. Connor, this is your first proper season following the women's team. Obviously, coming into the start of the season, you would have heard a lot of bad press behind the scenes in regards to the club. I know you was at the protest where it was, you know, the anti-Glazer thing going on at the same time. That was kind of running parallel to the issues that United women's team had going on at the time as well. How do you think that the women's team have reacted to the turbulent year that they've had behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think the thing, going back just quickly on the back, it kind of ties into what the question you just asked. I think there's, as United fans are the worst for it. There's a lot of flip-floppers is the best way of putting it, where it's like we lose a game, right, get him out, we're rubbish. We win a game, right, we're winning the league. It's like there's no in-between. And I think you mentioned what Skinner said there about let's not go so high, but let's also not go so low. Let's just manage it a little bit. And United fans are the worst for that. You know, there were people calling for his head a week ago. Now we've won a couple of games. Right, that's it. We're winning everything. Fucking, you know, it's on. And it's like, just let's temper it for a bit. But in answer to your question, it's been a tough, and I think I said this on the show a few weeks ago, for the players, it must have been hard because they clearly got on, for the most part, with Casey. There was clearly some issues over the summer, and it's tough as a player when you don't know what's going on. Like, there was no manager for a long time, and that going into pre-season not knowing what's going on. So it's tough for them. But I think, and it's also going to be tough as well, as we've said. I've said since day one that Skinner is actually a very, very good tactical manager. And I think he came in at a point and tried to change everything where he probably shouldn't have done that right from the start. He should have just gradually gone in. And now we're starting to see it come to fruition because the players understand it, which was always going to happen over time. It takes time. You can't just implement a style like that. It takes months. I don't think we're fully seeing it now. I just think because we've got better players, we're seeing it over the opposition that we're playing. But yeah, so it's, in answer to your question, how tough it's been. Yes, they've reacted well. Reacted well, actually, after a tough game, obviously, against Leicester. Because that could have gone really south after that. You know, the fan base was really, lose to Leicester at home, a team that hadn't won in the league all season or hadn't got a point all season. You know, that was a tough one to take, especially considering that was pretty much our first team that played that game as well. That was worrying. So yeah, I think they've reacted well. It's been fine margins this season. That's what I get. It's football. It happens. We are where we are now. But 95th minute equaliser against Spurs. Howler from Earps and Maria at Everton. That's 4 points just in 2 games, in 2 last-minute goals. So you take those away. It's such fine margins. So they've reacted well. Like I said, 3 clean sheets is the most important thing for me. But yeah, fair play to them. It was always going to take time, and I said it. Yes, I'm new to all this, but I think there are going to be some fans that are going to be upset with Skinner coming in. There were obviously my first show actually on this channel was Skinner's announcement day. And I remember seeing all the comments going like, "What's this? We've just got a new manager," and everyone's like hating on him. Nobody was like saying it was a good appointment. But so it was always going to upset the apple cart a little bit. And I still think there are going to be some players that leave that's going to upset the fan base a little bit. But we've got to move forward. I think that's the main thing from this year. Yes, Casey. I'll end on this because I'm going to drop this bombshell and leave. But I'm so sick of hearing we need Casey back. No, we don't. That is done. Move on. We've got Skinner now. We've got this group of players. Let's focus into 2022 and get behind the team and the manager because that's what we're all there for. We want the team to do well. We want the team to win everything. Let's stop looking backwards because, as you said, John, at the start, earlier this year, it just happened to coincide with the Glazer out protests in Manchester at the time and the Super League and everything else. It was a really bad time. So yes, that happened, but let's move on and start looking forward with this team.
Yeah, the men need Fergie back as well.
You're going to let the guy retire. You lot are going to be having a witch doctor trying to get him from the grave when he passes. I tell you, honestly, some of the men's United fans, there are other managers.
He's done enough for our club. He does no way should he be coming back.
Yeah, I think we've just got to get behind Skinner now. He's been there for sort of half a season now, so he seems to have got things in place now, and the team seems to know what they're doing now. So, yeah, I think fingers crossed we'll hold it together after Christmas and pushing on for the top 3 places.
Yeah, on what side of the fence was you kind of sitting on there, John, when the appointment was made? Because I think a lot of us was like divided, and rightly so, because they looked at his CV more than anything, and they saw the fact that he done a decent job at Birmingham. He really did. Not so good in regards to results at Orlando. He came in, and at a time where there was rumours about players going to the board, and not necessarily. Not protested or anything like that. That's a bit extreme, but there were kind of forcing their way in there. I think Millie was one of them to be rumored to be going in. There was a bit of unrest, and I think potentially did Skinner come in as a quick fix? I don't know. I don't know any of these things, but there was a lot of uncertainty when he came in. What were your thoughts when he came in, John?
Yeah, I mean, I was really sort of worried as things were when Casey left. It seemed like things were not going well at all.
It was for me. It was.
So yeah, I must admit myself, I didn't know a lot about Skinner, but looking what I did at Birmingham, I thought, well, he looks like he's sort of, knows the WSL fairly well. So I thought we'll back him. We'll give him a good chance.
Yeah, I mean, just to sort of tie both of them together, I would say though, and maybe this is wishful thinking, maybe I'm being a bit egotistical here, but I think we've had a lot of access to Skinner since this season, and I think us putting him feet to the fire has actually made him a better manager. I don't think it's not like obviously I know the men's managers probably don't listen as much to Twitter. You don't get that access. Multiple people have spoken to him. I've spoken to him, at a game. He's clearly heard when we're not happy, and I don't think there's any kind of like coincidence that suddenly now they know we're happy. We're getting mentions about how great the fans are again. And the last couple of and the week before, the last group of 3, they didn't even mention the fans at all. So I mean, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. I know what you're saying about United fans being fickle, but I think taking it from a purely women's fans perspective, because of what we do, where we go, how far we travel, how early we get up in the morning, literally in the Brighton case, like that's a trade-off, and to an extent, I'm proud of kicking his ass, really, and I think to be honest, he's never going to stay, but I think he's kind of happy about it as well. I mean, at the end of the Everton game, he came over and he sort of pulled his mask down slightly, still within, socially distanced and all that jazz. And went one more. Like, we knew what the deal was, and I think maybe that is a slight difference. Talking about Casey as well. Yeah, I mean, Casey was just used as a kind of, we don't really want Skinner when it was a bit bad, I think. I mean, at the end of the day, one of the things that people forget is that Casey was a first-time coach. So obviously a lot of people were saying, oh, United hasn't backed themselves strongly by getting Skinner as their replacement. Well, technically, they've gone for a more experienced coach than they would have got than they went with Casey. They've actually put their hands in their pockets. I don't know what his salary is, but I assume a bit more than she got, because obviously he was coming from an existing position. He'd been in the NWSL. He's been in with Birmingham in the WSL. I think Skinner, I think, to be honest, eventually I think we will probably gel quite well with Skinner. I just think he had to realize how to deal with us as well and how to channel us. And I think it is, it's used in football, the idea of the 12th player or the 12th man. But I think definitely in the women's game, because of the disparity in people who follow and the smaller crowds, it actually is a tool for the manager to use. And I think it has, it has a benefit to him. And I think sometimes it's like anything, I think the guy thought, like, I remember once had a bit of a side story, had a manager and she arrived first day and she kept saying, thanks for your contributions today. It really, really irritated me because she clearly got that from like a manager book. In a week, she realized she wasn't getting much reaction. So she stopped doing it and she got a much better staff below. So I think maybe Skinner tried the whole, everybody, let's fly the wave. And then we were all just like, and then he realized how to sort of like, deal with the fans, and he's getting the best out of us, and hopefully he's now getting the best out of the players. I think Connor wants to add a bit to that.
Yeah, no, the only thing I'll just add to that, if Skinner, this is a slight negative, I guess, if Skinner is listening to the fans and making decisions off the back of what the fans say, that's a worry for me, because he shouldn't be. I know we want him to, but he is a coach and done all his badges and all these kind of things, been around. If he's listening to regular fans, that's a worry, because he shouldn't be. I get it, we watch the team week in, week out, we think we know what we're talking, we've all got opinions, but he's with that squad every day in training, does all the behind the scenes. So really, he should be picking it off what him and and Martin and obviously Charlotte with the academy. He should be talking to those people. It's great. I actually, like I've constantly said, I'm sure we'll all say, he's really likable guy and all this kind of thing. But he needs to be I said this a few weeks ago. He needs to make decisions that are going to win him that game, and not let's worry about anything else. Don't worry about upsetting certain players or fans' favourites or all these kind of things. Just win that game. And then you'll get the fans back on side just by winning. Because if we're winning, no one's really. If we win every single game from now on, no one's going to be sat there going, "Oh, I don't like this Skinner. Can't get on board with this."
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's just about winning, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's sitting there and he's asking us who we want to play up front, and he's watching right now. Hi, Mark, how's it going? And stuff like that. But I just mean maybe more in the sort of soft skills stuff, like when he's doing the media stuff, maybe, or something like that. But or maybe it's just, I don't know. Correlation doesn't mean causation. I might just be seeing what I've seen, but I've just noticed we were losing, no mention to the fans. We're winning, we're like angels from upon high again. So like that there is a bit of a difference there. But I agree with Connor. Obviously, he shouldn't necessarily listen to us, but I think there is an extra element there about what we bring when we're there, and obviously that's another issue about if we end up behind closed doors again, how that's going to affect the team and affect United. Because I think it will affect us quite a lot. Though obviously, I'm sure Mark might feel he can finally think straight during the 90 minutes. But
he wouldn't want that.
I think Skinner enjoys that interaction with the fans. He loves it, doesn't he? Yeah, he's really into it. So hope it continues.
Just to back up Andy's point as well, I think. The fact that I think what we've done is, as a fan base, we've kind of put pressure on him to do things quickly. So where he might have had time in other clubs to maybe last the whole season before we actually makes any radical changes, I think being at Man United, and this might be down to the fans, it might not be, I don't know, but we won't let one game drop. If he makes a substitution in the wrong minute, we jump on it. If he does an interview and he uses the wrong words, we're on it. He's got no breathing space whatsoever. So I think that urgency there. So I do think that we made him better because he's not waiting, So I think, we have tried to push the club along as much as we can. So I do agree with that. Connor, I agree with your comment as well about to a point, the managers and the players as well shouldn't listen to us so much. I mean, you made a great example a couple of weeks ago about when we start shouting press, there's a right time to press, isn't there? You know, you got to press as a team, you got to press at the right times. You know, and when the ball's gone back to the goalkeeper and the goalkeeper's got 2 or 3 passes on, potentially Russo's just running himself into the ground for no reason. Whereas if the opposition wins the ball back and they're suddenly off guard, then you might as well come and press them together. There's ways to press, and you are right. I think it's good that, you know, the word probably does get back into the dressing room, and rightly so. But I think it's just finding that balance, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, I mean, I might use a different sort of analogy for maybe some of the other sports, like the Tifosi with Ferrari, for example. Like, you know, and the sort of like hardcore essentially is what we are, isn't it, in that respect? So I'm not, you know, so it is like that sort of cultural link, or, you know, anyone who's born in Catalonia in Barcelona. You know, it's like I think they're sort of born in the sort of I think they get in the hospital little Barca shirt, don't they? You know what I mean? Like, it's literally, you know, or rugby for New Zealand. I think we are going to keep them called into account, you know, for United fans. But I agree, you know, it's. I mean, I think he is going to be learning anyway. Maybe he didn't expect as much spotlight on him, you know, in that respect. So let's be honest, he's gone from Orlando Pride, which, you know, I don't really know much about them, to be honest. I think they were basically running a nursing home until recently, you know, with very older players with not much interaction. And we all know how bad Birmingham are. So it is a different kettle of fish to be a United manager with the Sky deal, with a lot more like with the shadow of Casey, you know, with obviously the am I getting back from the board, the Athletic article about, you know, all these various issues that apparently they had. And maybe some issues we're not even aware of that he's had to overcome. Oh, and also just a small thing about managing during COVID and not catching bloody COVID. You know, there's quite a few little things he's got to sort of spin, I suppose.
He might not have expected a fan channel as well to go live every night for a whole hour, to be either praising or criticising him. You know, 200 people watch it every time. That creates conversation. It creates debates as well. So it's massive. You know, the club's massive for a number of reasons.
You just got people trying to find the bit on YouTube where you can skip the ad. Then, by the way, just
well, one thing that always sticks in my head is something that Casey said at the very start. She said, "Man United will change the face of women's football forever." And I think you know, Man United have definitely done that. The fans have done that as well. So just thought I'd throw that one in there. Anthony, let's talk a little bit about the players then now. Just move away from Skinner. We had a few players coming out of the transfer window. I think we was all happy with the players who came in. I think we'd like to see maybe a couple more added to that as well. Who are your kind of highlights, and how do you think that they've done?
Obviously, I think Mannion's probably the main shout, and Blundell. Obviously, WSL quality with both of them. I know there was a slight worry about Mannion's fitness. I know she'd been injured quite a bit. I think she had a bad injury in that. But she's not missed a minute yet. She's been a rock at the back. It's a close one with Millie, to be fair. But Mannion and Millie Turner are definitely the starting back. They're just so good together. They know each other. They complement each other. Blundell, it's great that you can have it from both sides now, and they can switch with Baget, and Blundell can switch sides, and one can go up, one can go back. It's brilliant. And then Mark has talked about the midfield where with Boarisa, he's working her in slowly. And I think towards the end of Christmas, especially the last couple of games, you can see that. You can see she's getting a bit of game time and she's getting into it. She could have had a hat trick on another day against Brighton quite easily. So, no, we've talked about it before. Maybe the only thing he could have done was maybe bring another striker in, but hopefully January will come. Martha Thomas is all right. I know people are on the fence with her, but because obviously, considering we seem to buy West Ham's first team striker, so she's had a bit of a stop-start season, but what I've seen of her when she's been fit and came on, I've been quite impressed. But in terms, is she better than Jane Ross?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I think she brings more. And then before we touch on to whoever else wants to speak, I think Sophie Bagley's been quite an important transfer as well. Like, yeah, she's only been limited to Conti Cup, but I feel it's brought the best out in Mary, because I feel Mary feels like I've got competition here. If I don't perform to my best and I keep making mistakes, then we got a perfectly good goalkeeper on the bench that's ready to snap it. Whereas, especially towards the end of Casey's reign regarding goalkeepers, she clearly didn't trust them, that her reserve keeper and that, because I've mentioned it before, but we played Burnley in the FA Cup and they didn't even start with Fran or Emily back then. To me, that just tells you everything you need to know. So, but overall, if I was given a rating for the transfer season, I would probably give it an 8.
Okay, that's quite high, but I can see why. To be fair,
I don't think any of them have been bad. I just think Martha's just been a bit in and out, and Mannion and Blundell have definitely increased the competition. But we need to get to that next level where we have the depth, like we don't have to. I know with the City situation, anyone's going to struggle with how many injuries and that they've had. But last season, say, if we had an extra 3-4 people of a quality that were just as good and we could cope with, then it would have been a whole different ball game.
So let's break it down like by the players then, John. Balrisa, fans are divided not because of Balrisa, but the fact that she's not playing. Where do you kind of sit on this? I mean, can you understand why maybe she didn't play at the time? Or, I think you broke her in gently by playing her in the Conti Cup games first alongside higher lads. I think Durham we saw played there. I'm sure Andy's bursting to come in because I know that you was at that game as well, and I think yourself, Connor, as well.
Yeah, we get a medal for going there. It's part of it. Also, Connor might mention he drove there as well.
Yeah, it's a long day. I think me and that was in London, and we got our event didn't finish until about 11:30, and we still got back before Colin did because it crashed on the same night.
That's your driving there, mate. Sorry.
I had next to me. I had to be careful the entire time. So the Balrisa situation, John.
Yeah.
Do you think Skinner's managed it okay?
I think so. Yeah, I think she'll end up being a very good player. She's shown glimpses of it, like the Brighton game she played really, really well. I think she's perhaps been a bit quieter in some of the other games, but I think second half of the season, I think we could see her play quite a important role. She's just getting used to the WSL now, I think. So hopefully we'll see the best of her after Christmas, I think.
Can you see it being a position where potentially Skinner's choosing over Jackie or Balrisa? Because obviously as fans we would like to see Ladd definitely play, Tooney definitely play. So if you mind playing 3 in midfield, if we do end up going back to the out-and-out wingers, potentially that could be a choice. Can you see that happening, or do you think he's got to Patrick now, or what are your thoughts on that?
It's going to be difficult, isn't it? When Jackie's fit again, hopefully he's going to have a bit of a headache there, Skinner. I think in terms of who he's going to be playing in the centre there. I wouldn't like that decision myself, but I think obviously Jackie will be a while getting back into the team. She's not played for so long, so I think we're likely to see more of Vilda second half of the season, certainly for the first few games.
Conor, I know we spoke about it earlier on in the week as well. Do you think we could end up playing like 5 out-and-out like centre midfielders just to make room for some of the so-called best players?
Yeah, 100%. It's something that we spoke. Everyone said to me when Jackie comes back, she walks into the team. Well, she doesn't, because as everyone has said with certain other players, you have to earn your spot. So Jackie has to earn her way back into the team, like any other player should have to do. But even if she does, that means that the few weeks ago, if Jackie walked back into this team now, you'd say, well, who are you dropping? Are you dropping Barisa, Toon, or Zellum? Now, obviously, the obvious one for most people would be to drop Zellum. Well, that's fine. But then who's going to be your 6? So you've got to have Lad in there. So if you put Lad in, you're dropping Jackie, Barisa, or Toon. Which one are you dropping there? But this system he's playing now, you can kind of incorporate all of them, because you can have Toon playing out wide. You have Barisa as your 10, which is kind of where she's been playing the last week. You have Jackie as your 8 and Lad as your 6. So it can kind of work. It's not ideal because Toon is not really a winger. But as we all know, Skinner doesn't like wingers, or he doesn't play with natural wingers anyway. So this might actually work better with Toon playing as an inside forward. I hate that phrase, but that's what he likes to call them. So maybe this is a way of getting. I don't think we will, because I don't think he drops. I've said this since the start. I don't think he drops the captain, but we may see a midfield of Lad, Barisa, Jackie, Toon as a wide left forward, whatever you want to call it, someone else on the right, and then a striker. You might see that. I don't know, but he's got. I understand what John was just saying there. It's he wouldn't want that kind of response, and neither I wouldn't want to make that decision either. But it goes back to what I said earlier. He's going to have to upset somebody. Not everybody can play, and that's not a negative. That's a good thing, because you want players. Galton looked her best to me. I know this is going off piece a little bit, but she looked her best to me against Everton, because she had some time out against Brighton, I think it was, where she got. I hate that phrase dropped. She was put on the bench for Brighton, and she came back against Everton on her best form, because that probably reignited her. Hang on a minute, you're not leaving me out of the team again. So maybe we need that with some of these players. Having a midfield problem is good, because say Jackie comes back from injury, she's going to be like, I want that spot back. Like you're not keeping that spot from me. So she'll start putting in even better performances and then push her way back into the team, and that's what it should be. So yeah, it's a good problem to have. Bo Reese has really impressed me the last few weeks. Lad has been unbelievable. She's been the best player in the last 3 games. The reason why we're winning a lot of these games, having that shield in front of the back four. But there's definitely a way you can fit all of these players in for sure. But it goes back to what we were saying. I'm going to drop this and then I'll let Andy or someone else jump in on the back of it. But it goes back to what me and John were saying on the show that we did on the men's channel on Monday, talking about Russo. Now, she is not a number 9. She just isn't. She's a brilliant player, but she's not a striker. So maybe she gets shifted out to the right, Toon out on the left, and you get Stina, who everyone wants as their striker, and you get an actual centre forward, and then you're starting looking at going to different United look, isn't it? So maybe we see that moving forward. Who knows? I
can see Andy's got a confused face. Kind of. I'll explain on your behalf because Natalie's on the same.
You're not telepathic. I'll just respond directly to Connor. Don't worry. I
want to know. Go on. What is this? Because
there's so many elements to that.
It's not very often people say Russo's not a number 9, but I understand the logic behind it. So go on, Andy. I'll drop that.
Go on. You know what? I feel like one of those idiots who's not took a lifeline is going
to. I can. Do you want me to do it?
Go on. I'll ask you. The extra resources, and then I'll go.
Essentially, the reason why I say Russo's not a number 9 is because she's not great with her back to goal. She's not, and she doesn't have that kind of predatory instinct in terms of Martha Thomas's goal yesterday is a prime example of where a striker should be. Russo for me wouldn't be there. She wouldn't be there. She's not there for the tap in. She's not there for the cutback. Russo is fantastic at running in on the diagonal. So that's why I say maybe as an inside forward, she's better because picking the ball up and running at people, she's the best in our squad, I think, apart from maybe the fullbacks. So I think she's better out wide. Where her goal at Spurs, prime example of what I'm talking about, picks the ball up slightly wider, runs at defence. Whereas when you're playing as a number 9, you've got your back to goal a lot of the time, or it's expected to be kind of in the 18-yard box. Russo's not really. Watch that game back against Villa. She drops so deep. You don't want your striker back there. You want your striker in the middle. And when Thomas came on, she stayed high up like a proper 9. So I'm not saying she's a bad. No way is she a bad player. She's one of our best players in our squad. I just don't think she's a striker. It's the same problem we've got with Greenwood in the men's. Brilliant player. I just don't think he's a striker.
Yeah, there's other elements to pick up as well, but just tick it up on the Russo one. I just think, is it not because essentially she's starving? She's not getting fed at all. So, I mean, in the end of the day, she's having to go back and do that. And maybe with, someone to support her, you might see the natural element to it. Now, obviously, I couldn't sit here and tell you the difference between an inside forward and a number 9, if I'm honest. So that's possibly where it falls down. I just see it generally as strikers rather than sort of baking it my new side. But I do know typically we only have one defined, for want of a better word, goal scorer normally on the pitch up front at any one time. So it's mainly more based on the fact that she has to go hunting herself a lot of the time. So maybe we do get a Blackstenius or somebody else, or even just Martha runs into it and he thinks of playing someone else. You might see her play a bit differently. That's all I could push on that. Just circling back in relation to Bo Risa, I mean, I think the problem is, and again, obviously, my views are well known on this. You said that you have to play well way into the team. It's not. He's not. There's no real evidence on that because And you mentioned about where Golson got dropped. I'm going to use the word dropped. And I've got a name on back. I love her to death. It's not a personal thing. She's one of my favorite players, and she's come back brilliantly. And if I'm being generous, all right, Katie's played really well the last couple of games. Katie Zellum. But it could have happened a few games earlier than that if he actually had the balls to drop her. And he didn't. And you've just proved my point when you're saying about Galton. She's got rested and now she's playing a lot better. So, there was certain points where we were really heavily, asking for her to be rotated, if that's a bit better. And he didn't. And all right, she's sort of played through her poor form. But I'm more with you. I think if she just had one game on the bench, all right, as captain, it's harder to do. Then maybe we would have got this better version of Katie that we've had in the last couple of games a bit quicker. And just to sort of circle on Bo Risa as well, Skinner did say something that I disagree with about getting her ready for the WSL. It kind of makes her sound like she's some sort of dev. She's 26 years old and she's a regular in the Norwegian national team. Katie Zellum is not a regular in the England national team. Now, obviously, they are different levels of international team, but she isn't as fresh out the box, got to get used to this, that, and the other. She's a top class professional player. And I don't think, I think he's kind of changed the narrative a little bit because to make it understand why he's now playing her, because we've had to get her used to it and we're developing her and she's brand new, blah, 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 blah. In reality, he's just making excuses about why he didn't play her earlier. And another point as well, in relation to the midfield, I think it's working really well, but I'm not sure whether or not that is Skinnable, throwing the 5 midfielders in that he's done the last couple of games, or whether or not that's like a hybrid. He's finally understood we've got to work with what we got until I can get to a January or until I can get to a summer situation. Because it is a little bit like I've just got all my ingredients, I'm going to throw it against the wall and okay, it tastes all right kind of situation. Like, is it by accident or is it by design? So there's a lot of points in what Connor was saying. There's probably a lot of points that I've had to come back on, so you can go with that.
Yeah, I'll let Anthony jump in. Go on, Anthony.
You touched on Zellum maybe having a game on the bench to maybe get her form back, and that she's been great the last couple of games. But what I'm wondering, I want all of your opinions. How much is that to do with having Hayley Ladd back in the squad? Because I feel with Hayley, Hayley does all the dirty work. Hayley's going to get stuck in and get the ball. And do you think it gives Katie Zellum a bit more freedom and a bit more time on the ball with what Hayley's doing?
Yeah, I mean, Zellum's just not a 6. Ladd is the only 6 in this squad from what I've seen this year. So it's no coincidence that Bo Risa and Zellum have looked so comfortable when you got Ladd behind, because she's the protection. So Zellum can go 10 yards. I think I said to Matt at yesterday's game, Zellum and Bo Risa were 10 yards higher than our midfield in previous weeks, and that is because Ladd's behind them. And to be fair, Ladd's been getting forward as well. Actually, she won the penalty, didn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
She was the one bombing on past the past the forwards there. But I'll let you re-ask that question. But I really wanted to come back on what Andy just said there about why he was holding Bo Risa back. There was definitely a reason why. Now, there was question marks obviously as to why Ladd wasn't playing. I personally think that was because of injury to the centre backs. We needed to keep Ladd fixed. If she would have got injured as well, there's no one there. to play centre back. So maybe that was the reason. I don't know. I'm speculating. But as for Bo Risa, just because she's an international, it doesn't mean that she's adapted to the WSL. It's irrelevant because playing for your national side is completely different to playing in the league. We've said on numerous occasions, international football is just slower because of the teams you're playing. And you come into the WSL, it's higher quality, unless you're playing, the higher teams. You come to WSL, you're going to get faster paced games. So I don't know. None of us know, unless we've been been in the training sessions. None of us actually know the reason. I'm speculating, but I do think that Skinner has managed it correctly, because I don't think she wasn't great. Bo Reese, I'm talking about. She wasn't great against Reading. She got bullied around at Durham, which, to be fair, most of our players did. But then, he come into the quad. I can't get my words out. She's come into the squad and has started performing. So I actually think he's handled her very well. But I just think there was definitely a reason. I don't think none of us will ever know that reason, because none of us are there. But yeah, I just wanted to make that point that just because she, I hear it all the time. She was an international. She's linked to Lyon, all these kinds of things. It doesn't mean that she adapted straight away. Players do need to adapt. Any player that comes from any league will need to adapt. It's
a narrative, though, isn't it? That Skinner said that she was some sort of like my first midfielder job kind of situation. So maybe it was trying to relate into that. But you skirted my point about Galton. You just said yourself. So I don't want to do a Paxman on you, but go on then. Why didn't you drop? Not for that.
Okay, I can answer this. So I agree with you in some sense. It wasn't just Ellen, by the way. There was a few players that should have been dropped after it. That bad run that we went on where it was Spurs, Everton.
I'm only interested because you made the point about the benefit it's had for Leah. So I'm saying so about positive.
It does, and Leah and Zellum played their way back in. They should have been dropped 2 games earlier, both of them, but they didn't. And only Leah got dropped for Brighton. Whether that was right or wrong, I don't know. It wasn't. I'd have dropped Zellum as well. But yeah, I can't argue it because I do agree. I think that players should be based on performances. Katie's played her way back into form, but I don't know. I personally wouldn't manage like that. I think you need to take them out of the limelight. Just because you're placing someone on the bench doesn't mean that that they're not included. That's how you manage your squad. You need a squad of players. So just putting them on the bench is not necessarily a bad thing. But no, I can't come back on it because I agree. I think she should have been dropped earlier, but it's just worked out that she's played. I think if Jackie was fit, she might have actually been dropped. I think it's just because Ladd was being protected because of the centre-back situation. Now Millie's back. I just think it was just the timing. And obviously with Leah, you could have dropped her because you've got players that could play there. Whereas midfield, like I said, unless you bring you're bringing someone else in there that's players that would. But yeah, I agree with your point. I do.
Yeah, I think just quickly add to that as well.
Yeah, go on, John. Your thoughts on Zellum and Ladd?
Yeah, like Anthony says, I think, since Hayley Ladd's come back into the team, it's no coincidence that Zellum's performances have picked up substantially, really. I think Ladd sort of gives her that freedom to sort of play a natural game a bit more. So I think we've sort of seen the last 3 games, really, the benefits of that, really.
Andy, I was going to finish the show with yourself. Catching you off guard a little bit, I should have probably asked you to I should have told you maybe a little bit in advance. But if you could make a prediction for 2022, whether it be something extreme, it could be something quite basic, it could be a league prediction, it could be a player that's come through, or if you could kind of think of one prediction for 2022 that's positive, what could you see happening to do with Man United women's team?
I feel that the last part of that sentence was the lifeline you threw at the end about, but it's positive.
Yeah. Yeah, go on.
Okay. Prediction for 2022 that's positive. I would say we might win a cup.
Oh.
Obviously we've been drawn against. Again, I appreciate we were short on time here, but we're drawn against Bridgewater or Bridge, whatever you say. There's no E there, so I'll have to ask the resident Southerner over on the top right-hand corner how to pronounce it. In the 3rd round, all right, we've got Arsenal away for the quarterfinals of the Conti. we nearly beat them in the first season, Arsenal and the Conti, when we've had a very clear championship squad. On our day, I think we could do it. And then we'd be in the semis, and then we're in the final, and oh look, we won a cup. FA Cup's a bit of a longer walk up, and it depends what happens in January. But I think one of them, we're at least going to get to a final. And no disrespect to some random stadium in Wimbledon that's been announced as the Conti Cup stadium. I kind of hope it's Wembley, but it's probably going to be the Conti Cup. But I think hopefully we'll get a cup this season.
That's a good way to end the show. I hope everybody enjoys the Christmas Eve Festive Fans Forum tonight. Thank you to everybody for joining me. John, nice to see you come on, mate. How you doing? If people want to find you on Twitter, how can they go about doing that, mate?
Yeah, that's my Twitter on there. It's at John_Neville89.
Awesome. And you do attend the games as well, so you'll probably be seen in the stadium as well. Me and Andy will be back on your screens tomorrow, Christmas Day, so we can look out for that one. Connor, Anthony, have a fantastic Christmas. And yeah, we shall see you all again very soon. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.